Sounds crazy. In Brazil, farmers are digging war-style trenches just to stop wild boars. In a single night, they can wipe out entire fields, moving in packs and destroying everything in their path. No fences, no electricity, just a deep trench, and it actually works. In some rural areas of Brazil, wild boars are a real nightmare. They don't just destroy crops, they trample corn, uproot cassava, knock over sugarcane, attack livestock, and even spread disease. Just one night can cause thousands of dollars in damage. Many rural residents have grown fed up with their crops being constantly destroyed, so they've decided to take a completely different approach. Instead of relying on electric fences, traps, or chemicals, they've chosen to dig deep, wide ditches around their farming areas. The solution seems simple. When wild boars try to reach the fields, they're met with a deep trench blocking their way. Unable to jump over or climb across, they easily fall in. And once they're down there, getting out is no easy task. At first, the trenches were seen as a drastic measure, but they proved effective. The wild boars either couldn't escape or simply gave up and left. They were completely blocked. Who would have thought such a seemingly crude solution could turn out to be so smart and incredibly effective? These ditches are no joke. In some places, they're dug so deep and wide, they look more like strategic fortifications. But for farmers, it's the most practical way to protect an entire season's worth of hard work. Because wild boars aren't just a nuisance, they're a serious threat. They move in packs and destroy with alarming coordination. One night is all it takes to wipe out months of effort. To make matters worse, these boars also pose a risk of spreading disease. In many parts of southern and southeastern Brazil, a single night can result in thousands of dollars in damage. Tired of constantly dealing with the aftermath, many farmers have chosen to take a proactive approach from the start. That's when these animal defense moats started to appear. The ditches are usually 1 to 1.5 meters deep and over a meter wide. The steeper they are, the harder they are to climb out of. For large fields, construction becomes a real challenge, but many farmers haven't hesitated to dig trenches stretching for kilometers around their land. Of course, it's no easy task, but in return, they get a solution that clearly works. Wild boars can't break in. They either fall in or get discouraged and turn back. Still, some farmers have raised concerns. If these ditches become common, could the boars eventually learn to avoid them? Or more simply, they might just move on to areas without ditches. That's why a defense system needs to be designed in a coordinated way, not just as isolated efforts. Another big advantage: no electricity, no fences, no poison. No need for constant supervision. No risk of being tampered with. They just sit there, quietly doing their job, like a natural, silent defense wall that's incredibly solid. It's very hard to get past these ditches. They work silently. No panic for other animals, no smell, no electricity, no chemicals. Sounds almost perfect, right? But like any solution, it comes with a price, and the biggest downside is the cost. To build these kinds of ditches, you need heavy machinery, skilled labor, fuel, and a lot of time. For large farms or land as hard as rock, the construction isn't just expensive, it can take days to complete, posing a real challenge for any farmer. Digging a ditch isn't as simple as grabbing a shovel and getting to work. It's a serious investment, both financially and in terms of planning. In many areas, the cost per meter can exceed $2, which might not sound like much, but if a farm's perimeter stretches 5, 10, or even 20 kilometers, that number quickly climbs into the tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's just the initial cost. In the long run, maintenance also adds up. In areas with heavy rainfall, the soil can erode easily, and the ditches may fill with mud, turning into stagnant puddles or clogged channels. What started as a defense structure can quickly become a muddy mess if not properly maintained. And for large farms with rock-hard soil, digging ditches isn't just more expensive. It also takes significantly more time and effort. That's why a proper drainage system is essential, including flow channels, outlets, and even retaining walls to help preserve the ditch's structure year-round, especially during the rainy season. Safety is another critical factor that can't be overlooked. If not clearly marked, these ditches can become dangerous traps. There have been cases where machinery fell into ditches, workers slipped in the dark, or trucks got stuck trying to cross areas without proper access. Clear warnings and well-designed pathways are absolutely crucial to prevent accidents. The safest approach is to use highly visible signs placed in clearly marked locations. It's best to avoid placing ditches near areas with heavy foot or vehicle traffic. For necessary crossings, building small bridges or installing drive-over paths can help ensure smooth and uninterrupted movement. There's another factor that many people tend to overlook: terrain. This method works best in areas with flat or gently rolling land. But if the property is in hilly terrain, full of large rocks, or deep in the forest, things get much more complicated. Construction in those conditions requires significantly more effort, specialized equipment, higher costs, and sometimes the results just don't justify the investment. And the trouble doesn't come from wild boars alone. There are plenty of other pests out there causing headaches for farmers. The most notable are Java porcos, hybrids between wild boars and domestic pigs, stronger, tougher, and far more destructive. And that's not all. Some native species like peccaries aren't exactly gentle either. They often move in herds, storming into fields like a whirlwind, tearing through everything from corn and sugarcane to peanuts and cassava. Nothing is safe. In many areas, these raids happen regularly and have become a true nightmare for farmers. In some U.S. states, helicopters are used to snipe wild boar herds from the air. In Australia, they set traps and use trained dogs to chase them off. But all of these methods are expensive and come with ecological consequences. In that context, Brazil's ditch-digging approach is seen as one of the rare, low-cost, effective, and sustainable solutions. The state of São Paulo is one of the hardest-hit areas. There have been reports of wild boar herds over 200 strong at once. Just imagine, a wild stampede tearing through the fields in the dead of night. The sound of snapping plants, dirt flying, and by morning everything is reduced to ruins. That's why more and more farmers are turning to proactive solutions, and large ditches are gradually becoming the new fortress walls of modern farms. And there's one more species that can't be ignored: the capybara, also known as the water pig. They may look calm sitting by the river, but out in the fields, they're a serious threat. Capybaras have strong territorial behavior. Once they find a food source, they tend to stick around. They graze relentlessly, especially when the crops are young and most vulnerable. This leads to damage right at the start of the season. When plants die and the soil is left bare, the fields quickly become a breeding ground for weeds, pests, termites, and a host of other problems. A small loss early on can rapidly spread, triggering serious consequences for the entire crop cycle. That's why farmers have to stay proactive and stay one step ahead of every threat. So when you see a field surrounded by what looks like wartime trenches, don't laugh. Because what you're looking at is the work of farmers fighting to protect the most valuable things they have: their crops, their land, and their future. Every meal you enjoy today is thanks to someone out there digging trenches in the fields. From the trenches in Brazil to the frozen forests of Canada, wild boars aren't just one country's nightmare. The fight against this invasive species has gone global. And in Canada, it's entering a whole new level of intensity. In the stillness of night, deep in the rural forests of Canada, a strange sound echoes from the brush. This isn't a legend. It's not a rumor. It's a growing threat. By the hour, wild boars, smart, destructive, and aggressive, are tearing through crops and threatening both people and land. In July 2024, a massive hog, over 1,120 pounds, was taken down. But that wasn't a victory. It was a warning. Canada is at a crossroads for survival. Bows, drop-door traps, firearms, sterilization. The war has already begun, and you're about to witness it all. Let's begin. Today, let's explore the full-scale campaign to save the harvest in Canada's battle against invasive wild boars. Ever wondered how Canadian hunters are adapting to tougher and tougher challenges? This is where never-before-seen tactics and strategies are revealed. Before every mission, mastering hunting skills and strategy is absolutely essential. Go in unprepared, you might risk everything and lose your only chance. No guns, no skills, no survival. Hunters in Canada must endure months of hellish training, simulating battlefields, shooting in the dark, maintaining balance as targets charge at 40 kilometers per hour. 1 second of hesitation, one delayed trigger pull, and you become the hunted. Every drill doesn't just sharpen skills, it forges mental toughness. 1 second of carelessness could mean a missed opportunity, or worse, a fatal mistake. In Canada, they never go alone. When a pack of wild boars appears, the armed team immediately gives chase, tracking footprints, taking down each one. The peak in July 2024, a boar weighing over 1,120 pounds was brought down, marking the biggest hunting victory in Canadian history. It wasn't just a personal triumph, but a major blow against the growing threat to crops lurking across the countryside. According to a 2024 report by the Canadian Invasive Species Centre, around 750,000 to 1 million wild boars are eliminated each year in the most heavily affected areas. Not everyone agrees. Some communities oppose the hunts, arguing that they cause animal suffering and disrupt the ecosystem, from noise pollution to potential environmental imbalance. But faced with the real threat posed by wild boars, authorities have been forced to act. They've implemented strict regulations to strike a balance between population control and environmental protection, managing the population and protecting nature. For example, each hunter is allowed to take down a maximum of 4 to 5 boars per day. Meanwhile, many other communities strongly support the practice, viewing hunting as an essential measure to protect crops, safeguard food security, and preserve natural habitats. Hunting to protect agriculture. Is it a necessary solution or a controversial choice? Share your perspective in the comments below. We want to know, where do you stand in the battle between humans and wild boars? To prevent the spread of wild boars, the Canadian government has implemented a range of measures, with trapping being a key strategy. One of the most effective tools, the drop gate trap. When the target steps inside, a spring-loaded mechanism triggers and the gate slams shut, fast, clean, leaving no chance of escape. But success requires more than just a trap. It takes coordinated efforts from authorities, local communities, and experts, all working together for public safety and the future of the environment. To trap effectively, you have to exploit the target's habits. Traps are set in areas wild boars frequent, where they eat, sleep, and move. Bait is scattered from the outside in, tricking their sense of smell and natural foraging instincts. Corn, a wild boar favorite, is often used to lure them in. In Canada, massive cage traps are even equipped with solar-powered systems, allowing the drop gate to be triggered automatically, turning technology into a weapon in the fight for survival. Trap designers chose solar power not just to cut costs, but also to make installation more flexible and convenient for hunters. The solar panels don't just trigger the trap, they also support performance monitoring. A nearby camera silently watches every movement. When a wild boar appears, the system reacts instantly. The drop gate slams shut in a split second, capturing the target cleanly and without a sound. Not every solution requires guns or traps. A newer, more humane approach is being used. Neutering invasive male wild pigs to control their population. This method renders the males infertile, helping to manage the population in a more humane way than lethal measures, though it takes time, several weeks or even months, to see noticeable results. Though gentler, it requires strict monitoring and a carefully controlled process. It doesn't fully replace hunting or trapping, but it offers a more compassionate option in the fight against invasive species. For Canadians, traps remain the most effective tool to date, but in the future, it may take more than just a trap. According to the Wild Boar Control Program in Alberta, 2024, drop gate trap systems have helped reduce the wild boar population by 65% in pilot areas within just 18 months. These traps can be deployed across all types of terrain, from open fields to dense, rugged forests. They're not only effective, but also a sustainable long-term solution for controlling wild boars. However, not every location is suited for large traps or high-tech equipment. In remote, rugged forests, a traditional yet quiet and effective method is making a comeback: bow and arrow hunting. What about you? In your opinion, what's the most effective way to deal with this dangerous invasive species? Comment 0 si vous êtes d'accord pour utiliser des pièges? Comment 1 if you support hunting with specialized gear like the Canadians. Or pick another number if you have your own solution. Do your views align with Canadian farmers? Speak up for the environment and for community safety. In the US, many farmers have teamed up with hunters to carry out bold strategies, with bow hunting seen as one of the most effective and silent methods. Wild boars often hide in forests near farmland. To draw them out, bait towers filled with agricultural seeds are set up, releasing an enticing scent that triggers the predator's natural instincts. In just moments, wild boars emerge, following the scent trail, moving toward the bait tower. As the boar lowers its head to eat the first kernels, the arrow is already drawn, silent but full of force. The massive wild boar lifts its head. One wrong move and it could charge like a storm. The hunter holds their breath, fingers tightening on the bowstring. Every motion must be swift and precise. Hunter and farmer alike draw their bows, take aim, and with a single well-placed shot, the target slowly collapses deep in the forest. Then, they follow the trail to retrieve their hard-earned prize. But this isn't a game. Wild boars are extremely sensitive and aggressive. Even the slightest mistake can turn the hunter into the hunted. When you're spotted, understand one thing: danger is closing in. That's why careful concealment and choosing the right moment to strike are matters of survival. Camouflage and protective gear are a must, and in close-range situations, the recurve bow is the ideal weapon. Compact, powerful, and incredibly agile in dense forests. Want to hunt wild boar effectively? Your arrows need to be broadheads, sharp, penetrating, and powerful enough to take down the target with a single shot. But everything only goes smoothly if you maintain absolute silence. Even the slightest noise can send the whole herd fleeing deep into the forest. Look at him, closing in on the prey, step by silent step, hands gripping the bow tight. Just one shot, one arrow. The boar goes down. Miss that moment, and all your effort vanishes. So what do you think? Is a bow and arrow really the safest and most effective way to hunt wild boar in the mountains? Share your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you. The moment farmers spot signs of wild boar, they take action. Corn is scattered across the clearing as bait, while the hunter climbs a tree, picking a spot with the perfect vantage point. From above, he stays motionless like a shadow, waiting for the right moment. At long range, the hunter opts for a modern bow, silent yet powerful. One well-placed arrow is all it takes to bring down a wild boar. No gunshots, no chaos. Everything ends in silence, a precise shot from above. Following the blood trail, he finds the fallen boar not far away. But make no mistake, wild boars have an incredible will to survive. So how does a hunter bring one down with just a single arrow? The answer lies in technique and disciplined practice. Not everyone can take down a wild boar with a single arrow. Success comes from hours of intense training, sharpening both skill and mental toughness. One missed breath, and all that effort can vanish. It's a raw, instinctual power, unlocked through discipline. Bow hunting isn't just effective, it's environmentally friendly. No noise, no emissions, low cost, and high precision. At night, they move in silence. No sounds, no eyes to be seen. By the time you hear the rustling in the bushes, it's already too late. The forest is no longer a place of peace. The fields are no longer grounds of hope. They become invisible battlegrounds, where an enemy grows stronger, smarter, and bolder with each passing day. A single adult wild boar can take down a deer. A herd can tear through an entire crop field in just one night. And if they're not stopped in time, you could be their next target. Canada is at a crossroads. Either we fight back now, or we risk losing what generations have worked so hard to protect. Remember, they never rest, so neither can you. Each method is a blade, but where you strike is up to you. Kill to survive or control to coexist. Canada is taking action. What about you? Comment with the number that matches your choice. 0. Set traps. 1. Hunt with firearms. 2. Use sterilization drugs. 3. Hunt with bow and arrow. 3. Drop your own solution if you've got one. Speak up for the crops, the environment, and the community. Hit like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss the next video.